Okay, if you're someone of a fan of mechs, and some level strategy games, this is probably gonna be a very fun thing to check out. So anyways, let's yap about it.
I can only hold this for 5 more seconds.
I only need 3, 2, 1, move!
Okay, I'm gonna do my best to recall this game because it's been a while since I finished this game. Because when I first discovered this, I think it was like early access, and I just randomly added it on my wish list. I don't remember how. I think it was just like one of my usual days where I just go through my Steam recommendations of here's the 7 games we recommend, and it just showed up. The only reason I find this silly of a timing is just because apparently when I got this game, it was discounted during a sale, and at the same time they had just released version 2.0 of this game, and as far as I understand, review ratings went to positive for Phantom Brigade. So with that said, apparently a lot of things has changed since whenever I first discovered it to rediscovering it. So that being said, things I must discuss about this game. I don't know how much of a ramble it's gonna be. Straight off the bat, this is an indie game I should probably mention, and it shows for the fact that there's like one cinematic in this game. Oh, fucking cinematic scenes? That's crazy. Surely the Major will live. Alright, we're in town. And unfortunately, there is no other cinematics in this game. That being said, there's also like no story to this game if you're getting into this. But I think if you're an enjoyer of mech games, because dear God is there a lack of them in this genre, let alone good ones, it's good. Because literally the story, from what I can tell you, it is basically, and what I paid attention to, because a lot of the text in this game is just fluff for the sake of just existing, I feel. Literally the start of the game, you're simply part of like some country or something, and as part of the military group that you're part of, you get attacked by another country and you apparently lose. And then after some years, I guess some rebel group is formed and you're just part of some other leftovers of the military just trying to fight back. That's it, and that's how you start, because this is their excuse for having you start with absolutely nothing. And so before I even like discuss how the gameplay works, with you starting with barely anything, they have you start with like the most simple mechs to use for combat. They're like, I think, if I remember what they give you, I think it's like medium and light mechs, which that being said, your mechs come in like various different forms of weight type, which affects how they go about doing stuff, from moving to even colliding with each other. And anyone gonna play this, just know there is friendly fire. So you have to be careful of how you're aiming everyone and moving around. But that being said, again, I don't know how I was gonna fucking discuss, because I'm gonna ramble with this, because there's so much stuff in this game that like goes back and forth between each other, from how you build your mechs, how it works in actual gameplay. Like, holy shit. So like the gameplay is, if you're getting into this, right? Because again, this is like a strategy game, but it's hard to like pinpoint what exactly the strategy game is like. Like, the only closest thing I could familiarize myself to this feeling like is if anyone's ever heard or played of Valkyrie Chronicle games. I've only played one of them because it was such a neat idea of a strategy game where you control your units and you move in real time, like it's a third-person shooter. Here, it's like if XCOM was turned into a real-time strategy game, but it's like weirdly at the same time not acting in real time. It's so fucking bizarre. The idea behind this game, and they even explain it like as a story mechanic, you have like, I don't remember, I think it's an AI system, but there's their excuse on why the gameplay works as it does. Basically, you have like a time frame of like 5 seconds, this timeline window to work with. In this timeline, this is what makes up your AP gauge, essentially, that basically every strategy game has. But this entire timeline is what determines how far you could move, because you could literally spend the entire timeline just moving, but then simply using like a gun, depending what weapon you have, determines how much of the gauge is used up. And this is per character. So everyone, you control one at a time, saying, I want unit to go here to here, and this consumes up time. And then gun determines, okay, this will consume this few extra seconds of my time. And other little things that you get that I'll discuss later. Because it ties into the whole how you customize your mech. Because on simple core, at the very beginning of the game, all you could do is move, shoot, and dash, and wait. Which you rarely bother doing. Or at least I did. And basically, once you have everyone set up to go, okay, I want these guys to do these things during these times, right? It's all happening in a 5-second span, which is interesting to think about because it reminds me of like a thing that I'm told how long, like if anyone's played D&D, because in D&D games, supposedly combat happens in like a few minutes, apparently. Like, even though if anyone plays it, like, you know that combat could be like an hour long or something. But in like real time, technically, I guess Baldur's Gate 3, like combat doesn't last that long, which gives you a better idea of like how combat is more like visually. So for Phantom Brigade, they're basically pushing that to more real-time understanding of like, okay, combat is only a couple seconds long by the time you're done with it. You can literally replay the entire combat that you just did to see what happens, just as a fun thing. Because otherwise, you're always able to at least see what happened the last 5 seconds in between turns. Oh, I guess that's what it is. Because every 5 seconds, basically a turn. And I don't know where I was going with this. I absolutely blanked for a bit. But like, it's a cool feature with how they do turn-based in this. That being said, there is friendly fire, which you have to be conscious of. Because even though you move someone in range to attack at certain angles, your mech might accidentally friendly fire if you're not paying attention to your timeline of where everyone's moving. And if anything, cool thing at least kind of helps is that you could set everyone up and then move your cursor across the timeline, see where everyone goes in case you fuck up. But like, my fucking god, is movement probably the most annoying thing that I had playing this. Because friendly fire is almost like whatever, but friendly fire and movement's probably the most annoying thing I had. If you happen to collide with someone, there's like a small like after effect they show you if in case you do. And like, some mechs are bigger than others, and it's so hard sometimes when you move things around and you just quickly skim through your timeline. There's been so many times where I've accidentally had someone run into another person just because like the smallest frame in where they collide hits each other. I don't know how to explain it because it's such a small frame that sometimes your mechs just accidentally touch each other. Just like something like maybe their shoulder fucking collides into the other person, and that's enough of they ram into each other apparently. And that wastes so much time. Because not only does it end their turn in their timeline, but it carries over into like part of their next turn. Because again, you have to remember everything's happening at the same time. So if a collision causes your mech to collide and lose a turn for like 30 seconds, and it's like towards the end, dear god, is it a pain in the ass out of them moving their next turn. And that's not even considering other things that could affect hindering your timeline. Because how you customize also affects how enemies are customized as well, which that alone is the only thing that it really determines whether missions you do is remotely actually hard or not, I've learned. And then from there, if anything, just to make their game more different from like other strategy games or turn-based type game, I'm still always unsure how to describe this. So the thing about how they make each mission unique so it's not so boring, so that's not just you go into mission, your goal is just kill. Every mission you actually have a choice of how you go about determining what missions you get, because you have a big map in every zone that you're supposed to like go explore to progress the story. The biggest part is that each zone is what determines the type of enemies you deal with mainly. And in the beginning, it starts with so simple. It's like in the beginning, all that you're dealing with is just mechs and certain vehicles that might have machine guns or rocket launchers of sorts, like missile pods. And the thing is, depending on the type of enemy you fight, by the end of the mission, it determines what you get to claim as your reward. Because again, the idea of just a minor faction that's just trying to fight back with poor military tech, I guess. And you're supposed to just steal a gift from the battlefield. So there's like a high risk, high reward type of system they've got going on. So like if you choose to go into a zone that's might like say something like along the lines of enemies using less usable mechs, but more in like vehicles and missiles. So once you go around that zone choosing missions, right? Enemies are almost going to have different types of mainly just missiles. From missile weapons that could shoot across the map to missile weapons that are more close quarters or medium range, which is a really cool thing. Or you might choose a zone that might be, they're more focused on damaging pilots than they are with doing actual mech damage. And so that goes into the whole. Now, not only are you having to worry about making sure your mechs don't get hurt, because, God, there's so much to talk about. But, like, your mechs aren't just existing as units, which is a really interesting thing. It's annoying in some ways, but it's interesting. Your mechs themselves have their own integrity, and, like, depending where they're shot, they could lose their mech parts at the end of the mission. So, like, you have to be conscious of, like, what you're getting, what you're having your mechs use. Because, like, the heavier the unit frame, that typically means every limb and their HP in general is massive. But, like, say you might be equipping some part that might make your pilot actually more vulnerable to damage. So even, like, the weakest gun that doesn't do that much mech damage will do a fuck ton of HP damage to your pilot. And that alone kills your unit faster. Because even though by the end of the mission, yeah, your pilot is dead, technically. To mention ahead of time, right, pilots could only die, technically, a certain amount of times in missions. There's so many little features, holy shit. There's so much. I'm overwhelmed trying to discuss this. Yeah, so, like, there's so much to keep aware of, which I think because, with the way that I am, I like, it's like Pepe Sylving. Like, a lot of my hours spent in this game is just mech building. That's, like, probably the coolest thing in this game, because if you spend enough time, you can make some really cool mechs. Because you start off so goddamn simple. I wasn't sure how this game was gonna go, because you start off with the most boring ass mechs. I'm like, I wasn't sure about it. Because you just have mechs that have assault rifles, LMGs, they could have a sidearm, and at the beginning all you have for sidearms are just like janky ass pistols, and the kind of coolest thing is like handheld missile pods. But like as the farther along you go in the game's story, you're constantly choosing zones that are deterring what type of risk you're willing to take. Do you go into zones where you're fighting mechs and vehicles that are more unit damaging folks, or do you go into zones that are more elemental focused, so they're using like fire damage shit, or they are dealing with arc stuff? It's like the farther along you go, it starts getting more interesting. Because not only are you going, fuck, I have to deal with this shit, you're going, fuck yeah, I get to use this shit. It's like the variety of mechs is crazy. It's like, I think my favorite mech I've had are my melee mechs and my range mechs. Because like my melee mechs, some of them were literally going in with axe. I had them like with a shield. Because like one of my mechs, I was like very inspired making it very Zaku based. So I was like, okay, Zaku. So go in kind of big, clunky, but you going with big axe, so like they could take damage, fuck, they could wreak havoc. But then I'd have like these sniper type mechs, and they're varied in like actually using a sniper to technically a sniper mech that was artillery based. So I kitted out with missile pods, backpack missile launcher, and it was like some of my fastest mechs because it would just roam around just barraging the battlefield. It's so cool. Some of the things you can get is crazy, and like once you get far enough in it gets even wackier with some of the stuff you get. It's like you could get a las heavy gun that makes your mech super slow unless they're light frame, but it's a las beam that rips through buildings. And it's just a constant beam of damage, and it shreds. But because of the way it works, I had to like go with, do I want just heavy and fucking slow, or do I want light so it can actually avoid damage but still hit from far enough range? How it goes with customization too is that, like, sure, you can work with like a few mechs and a few pilots, and their pilots themselves also determine how well your mechs work. So every pilot is also their own version of class. So not only are you making mechs that are supposed to be played a certain way to your preference, but you have mechs making them work in certain ways. So even though I might make a mech that's melee and tank based, I could might have like a pilot that is dedicated mainly towards like an assassin type. So putting that type of pilot on a tank mech makes that mech now no longer as slow, but he might not be benefiting from some other stuff that you would benefit from light frames. But like that adds to another variety of like, this game gets crazy and time consuming of just building. Because once you're actually in game, all that I've said about how the gameplay works, how your weapons work, all affects how everything changes up. Because like someone's weapon might be so devastating, but it takes almost the entire timeline unless they're using pilot that reduces heat gauge. So like there's a lot you're trying to like tinker and bounce and everything works. And then, right, it gets cool to actually replay like sections of your fights. One of the coolest things is like, right, is that when you're going into missions, might determine what you might want to bring for like fighting the mission. Because again, all these missions aren't just go in, fight enemies. It's literally go in and destroy the town, or go in and assassinate a target. Or you might have a mission that's a quick hit and run type of mission, which is kill as many enemies as you can, hit the quota of how many guys you fuck up, how many buildings you destroy, and then get the fuck out. Because some of these missions are time-based, and I don't mean in the sense of time-based of, oh, you have to beat this mission in X amount of turns. It's quite literally, you could spend as much time as you want in these missions, but the longer you stay, the higher risk you're going to take of losing, because enemy alert is on high for this mission. So they're gonna keep throwing enemies after enemies. So unless you get like a setup that's killing enemies fast, the amount of enemies starts getting overwhelming. And the thing is, right, all these missions, you could only send 4 mechs per mission. It's a weird thing, and I only play this game on normal. I don't know how you strategize for like hard difficulty, but they try to encourage you to do missions with less mechs. Because less mechs you have means more XP for your pilots. And as far as I can tell, I think the most XP bonus you get is 200% bonus. There might be 400% bonus, but I wasn't gonna risk that. Nor do I remember, because I think if I did saw that, I was like, okay, that's cool and all. I ain't got that type of strategy to handle that. Again, it's another level of risk reward system that they put, which is cool, but I think this mechanic isn't that great. Because in the beginning, it's manageable to do missions with less mechs, but once you get far enough in the game, like early halfway, you start to realize you need 3 to 4 mechs to do missions. And then by the end of the game, with how hard this game gets and how absurd it's like, how the fuck am I supposed to do these missions with only 4 fucking mechs? As cool it is to like do missions with less, unless you're good with strategy and building your mechs, fuck that shit. I completely forgot where all this was going, where I was trying to discuss all this with how cool this game is. The issue with me rambling is that I completely lose track of where everything was going. Because I'm talking about, I don't have someone to remind me what I was discussing. Anyway, yeah, point I'm trying to make is this game has a lot of cool shit in it. The people who made it definitely are enjoyers of mechs, I could tell. It's so cool once you get your stuff set up and you just choose to take the time to replay combat. Watching mechs move, like as neat as is like trying to figure out how everyone's supposed to move, watching it and going, oh, that's how things are actually going in technically reality. And a thing that's I always find cool in mech game, like, because like a lot of mech game, like if you're first person, third person, you don't really think of how big your mech is. And so in this, it's always cool fighting in city type territories. Oh yeah, these are buildings, these are mechs, right? So then to watch a replay of what your guys are doing, right? To have a situation where I was doing a mission with, I think, 2 or 3 mechs, right? I had a mech outmaneuvering the enemy, just trying to zigzag between building and then trying to like do a hit and run strategy of hitting from the side, hitting from behind, because he was fast enough and he had a shield so we could like at least block in between open zones. But then I had like, I think it was my missile mech just sniping from across the map, trying to give him covering fire, right? And like I had this cool moment of just seeing this little guy just like almost anime style, just like watching him literally hit and run in such a cool anime mech style. I don't know how else to explain unless you're like that type of player. At anime enjoyer, I guess. It's always cool watching anime stuff and watching like maybe animated things of some sort where it's like you see these cool mechs doing these cool things. If you're playing, say, Armored Core or some other mech game that might be there, like it's cool all being a part of it, but there's something just as cool actually watching mechs in third person doing that shit. Especially knowing you're the one telling me, hey, I need you to do this thing, I need to move point A to B, then go to here's point C, fire your gun, and then dash the fuck out into cover. Like, it's such a cool thing watching. God, I'm getting lightheaded discussing this. It's such a neat game. I don't know how else much to describe it. Like, my only issues in this game is just how absurd the game gets mid to late game. And then, oh, I haven't even discussed, there's boss battles in this game. So like, once you do enough damage in zones, right? The boss battles themselves are also the same, and like they're such grand fights. Fighting the first one and then thereafter, it's always such a interesting experience. Like, okay, what the fuck am I gonna deal with? Because you only deal with so many. They're almost all the same, especially with how you fight them. Like literally almost all these boss fights, their main gimmick is just circle around and hit it with everything you got. But like they do just a unique enough thing about them. Each boss fight, like they get grand because they start off simple just like you, where they just have, I think, just machine guns. And then I think, at least from the first one, the boss fight might entail, oh, we're doing airstrike. So you can't have someone sitting in one spot for too long. But then it gets crazy to something like they might have laser weapons in the front, so they'll beam you. So you're forced to try to move from the sides. And then it might be the later on difficult where it's, yeah, they have laser beam, but they also got big ass cannon, turret. They got turrets on all sides. They might have turrets on their limbs. They might have an attitude like, oh yeah, they're weak from behind, but oh no, dare to get close and you're going heavy machine gunned. It's probably the coolest cinematic fight just because these boss fights are just the biggest thing you fight in general. And I think the only complaint I have to have about this game, right, eventually, and I mean eventually, maybe halfway through the game, it does feel kind of boring and repetitive. Not because there's like a lack of variety per se, but maybe because a lot of stuff is reused. So like there's long periods where you'll still get the same stuff, but just a higher level tier of it. I think the other thing is the fact that you get really used to figuring out how to do certain missions. So eventually it just gets tiring just doing over and over. Supposedly took me 54 hours to beat. I think my save game might be a bit less. Maybe like 40-ish hours. That sounds kind of a lot, but like for how long it is trying to get through this game, I think the game could have maybe been slightly shorter. But at the same time, it could have only felt that long because I tried to also do every zone as I could. And I don't fully understood the zone mechanic. Like, unless I just didn't read it. You choose your zones of where you want to go. But like, as I progressed, some zones just completely locked me out of accessing other zones. So I don't know if maybe there was a bit more variety and like the more optional optional of zones to go into, but the game could also have been probably also very short and probably the length I felt like it probably could have been if I just rushed through the main story or main zone, because there's not really a story. But yeah, like eventually it does feel boring and repetitive. And whenever I got to it like far enough into the game where it's like, okay, you're now having this new stuff to do, like that's when my interest in the game just got reinvigorated for like a bit into like the next time it does that. And it does that frequently. Like the beginning of the game, like it takes a while before you finally start getting cool gear, let alone I think melee options like swords. There's plenty of stuff for how long it is and how long it takes to get through everything and every mission. Like for all that stuff just ends up feeling repetitive, I guess. But like it's a fun mech game to play. And again, there are so little mech games in this genre. It has the customization, it has the cool mech fights. As long as you enjoy strategy, it checks every box needed to enjoy this game at least. It's just, again, it's all about high risk, high reward. I guess even determining how long you want to play this is a risk and reward of like, do you really want to take 54 hours or less to beat this game? I will mention there is a few game-breaking bugs in this game. Like, I think the game crashed maybe twice throughout my time playing, causing me to have to redo certain missions again. There's a bug, I don't know what caused it, but caused me to be unable to interact with the map, and the only fix to that was reloading a previous save and not in like the save of like auto saves or like the last, I mean like literally the save before the previous save. There's a few times where the amount of hours I spent got reset because of this bug. The bug at the end of the game had me restart the game 3 times, I think. First time was just because I was trying to figure out the boss fight at the end of the game. Second time is when it occurred. And third time I managed to push through the broken bug for it to still work. And the bug is, as far as I remember, I don't know if it might occur if you play this game, where some of the enemies got stuck underground, but they were like partially out of it. Eventually they did move, but they were still halfway in the ground. And because of how everything is real time working, even to the point of how everyone's positioning, right? Them being partially in the ground makes auto aim, which is what you mostly do, right? Is having your units go, I want you to shoot, but I want you to shoot in this direction. They just shoot in that direction. That literally just means they're shooting at chest height aim or maybe shoulder aim. So them being halfway in the ground caused them to miss almost every shot. The only way I beat it was having missile blast them and just praying they fucking land. That was it. So anyways, enough yapping. Go check this game out if you're a mech enjoyer. It's the best I could say. If you want a rating, I would probably say this game is a 4 mechs out of how the fuck do I get out of this situation. Take that as well. Hopefully enjoy. Okay, bye.